On November 15, 2013, at 10:30 p.m., a woman and her daughter were returning home when they noticed the car door of a Lincoln LS sedan opened with the driver sitting motionless in the car. The car was parked at 1212 Ellsworth Avenue, near the corner of Baisley Avenue, in the Trogs Neck section of the Bronx. According to the woman, "We pulled up, I got out and saw that there was blood coming out of his ears." The victim was 62-year-old Michael Meldish, who led the infamous Purple Gang with his brother Joey during the 70s and 80s. Meldish was a Lucchese Associate who, at the time of his death, had been living in a 2nd Avenue apartment in East Harlem. The police created a crime scene around the car and found Meldish, who was dressed in jeans and a leather jacket, sitting in the driver's seat with his head back and mouth wide open. On a side note, I remember former FBI agent Ted Otto mimicking exactly how Meldish looked with his mouth wide open. There was also a pair of designer sunglasses with one lens missing outside the car. Meldish had one bullet wound to the right backside of his head. Ballistics would determine that he was shot from a short distance. According to the investigation, Michael Meldish's murder was ordered by the Lucchese administration for several reasons, including money that was owed to acting boss Matty Madonna. Involved in the murder was Lucchese member Chris Londonio, who at the time was a member of Stevie Crea Jr.'s Bronx crew, and Terrence Caldwell. Both Londonio and Caldwell went back years with Meldish and was considered to be friends of his. On the night of the murder, Caldwell met with Meldish and drove with him to the Bronx, where they were supposed to be meeting with Londonio, when in reality, they were setting him up. After parking on Ellsworth Avenue, at some point, Meldish attempted to get out of his car by turning away from Caldwell and managed to open the driver's door, at which point Caldwell shot him in the back of his head. Caldwell then exited the Lincoln and jumped into a waiting car driven by Londonio. On May 5, 2015, Caldwell was arrested and questioned by an NYPD detective, who told him that he was trying to get an explanation for the evidence that placed him at the scene of the crime. Caldwell responded by saying, "I don't have one." Part of the evidence included phone records, cell phone and vehicle location data, and the most damaging, a video of Londonio's car following the Lincoln minutes before the murder took place. Caldwell was charged with murder, manslaughter, and criminal possession of a weapon. His arrest record dated back to 1973 and consisted over 20 arrests. Consequently, Caldwell, Londonio, and their co-defendants, Matty Madonna and Stevie Crea Sr., were all convicted on November 15, 2019, where they subsequently received life sentences. In sum and substance, the murder of Michael Meldish is a classic example of how the mob uses those closest to you to set you up. It's one of the main reasons in 2018, when I realized what was happening in my situation, I immediately cut off all ties. Michael Meldish was killed on a Friday night, and the crime scene was still active the following day on Saturday, when his son showed up. He stayed a while and stared at some drops of his father's blood that was on the ground, most likely from when they removed his body from the car. After a while, he left without saying a word. That's the reality. The mob doesn't care about the family, who's left in pain and with the loss of the person they love. For them, it's about making an example or sending a message. And more often than not, they too pay a hefty price for those very examples and messages. Of course, you'll have certain people who will stomp their Buster Browns and cry that they're innocent or wrongly convicted. But I'll quote a saying once said by Tony Muscatel. Van Gogh was an artist who was also framed.